When he first stepped onto the alien world, he never imagined things would spiral into something so strange. He thought he would simply complete his research work, report his findings, and return home like any ordinary human on a peace mission. But life has a habit of throwing surprises, and this time the surprise was something he could never have prepared for. The grand hall of the alien palace was larger than any building he had ever seen. The ceiling was made of glowing crystals that changed colors every few seconds, softly lighting up the space with shifting shades of blue and silver. Alien nobles stood in rows, their tall frames perfectly still, their eyes fixed on the center stage where the queen herself waited. Her presence was powerful, almost overwhelming. She had an air of authority that could silence a crowd with a single look. He stood a few steps behind the other human representatives, trying not to draw attention. His goal was simple: observe, listen, and avoid trouble. Peace missions could be unpredictable, and he was not the type who enjoyed being in the spotlight. He preferred quiet corners, taking notes, and staying out of political conflict. But fate had a different plan. The queen's gaze suddenly turned toward him. He felt it before he even saw it, like a sudden shift in temperature, or the weight of someone staring at him from the other side of a crowded room. Slowly, he lifted his eyes, hoping he was mistaken. But no, she was looking directly at him. One of the council members whispered something to her. She dismissed him with a flick of her hand. The hall became strangely quiet. He swallowed hard. Why was she staring at him? Had he unknowingly broken a rule, stepped on sacred ground? Was he standing in a forbidden spot? Before he could figure it out, the queen walked toward him. Every step she took echoed across the hall. Her tall figure, wrapped in shimmering fabric that looked almost like liquid metal, moved with both strength and grace. No one around him dared to breathe too loudly. When she stopped in front of him, he instinctively lowered his gaze. He didn't know their customs well enough. Was eye contact rude? Was bowing required? He tried to do both at once and ended up looking awkward, staring at the floor while slightly bending forward. She reached into a small crystal box, held by one of her guards, and took out a glowing ring. It was unlike anything from his world soft. Light pulsed from it like a heartbeat. Then she said the words that changed everything. Put the ring on and tell everyone we're married, human. His mind went blank. For a full second, he wondered if he misunderstood. Maybe the translator device malfunctioned. Maybe she actually said something like greet the council or accept this symbolic gift. But no, the hall gasped all at once, proving he heard correctly. Married? Married to her? In front of the entire alien council. He felt his heart pounding inside his chest. He wasn't a soldier or a leader. He wasn't a politician or someone used to public attention. He was just here to observe. Just a normal human among beings, far more powerful and influential. And now the queen, an actual queen, was asking him to pretend to be her spouse. He didn't even know how to react. His fingers felt cold. His legs felt stiff. His voice refused to work, so he simply stared at her in shock. The queen raised an eyebrow, waiting. He finally managed to whisper, "I don't understand." Her voice remained calm, almost too calm. "You will put the ring on," she said, "and you will announce it to everyone here. That is all I require." That is all? He thought helplessly. That was not a small request. That was one of the biggest things anyone had ever asked him to do. His mouth opened, then closed. He didn't dare say, no, not in front of so many aliens, not with their glowing eyes watching him like judges waiting to deliver a verdict. He glanced around and saw the council members staring in disbelief. Some looked angry, others looked stunned. A few even stepped back, whispering to each other. Whatever the queen was doing, it was clearly not part of the ceremony. Why him, though? Out of all the humans, Why choose the quiet one who avoided attention? Did she confuse him with someone else? Was it random? Or was it some cultural thing he didn't understand? He wanted to ask her, but his voice felt trapped. The queen extended her hand, holding the ring. Her expression did not change at all. There was no joke in her eyes, no mischief, no sign this was a test or prank. She looked deadly serious. He realized then that refusing her might not just be impolite, it could cause a diplomatic disaster. One of the human diplomats standing behind him whispered urgently, "Just do it for now. We'll figure out the meaning later." His heart hammered even faster. Being married, even fake, was a huge thing. And doing it on an alien world, to an alien ruler, in front of their entire political council, that wasn't something he could simply undo later like a small mistake. But the queen waited, and the hall's silence felt heavier than stone. His mind raced through every possible outcome. If he said no, would the aliens take it as an insult? Would it break trust between the two worlds? Would he put everyone at risk? And if he said yes, what then? He looked at the queen again. Her eyes were intense, sharp, focused, and strangely calm. She wasn't threatening him, but she wasn't giving him any space to escape either. There was something behind her expression, though. Something he couldn't identify at first. Not anger, not pride, not authority. It was something much softer. Something almost hidden. Was it desperation? He felt confused, but the moment was slipping quickly. The council members were growing restless. Murmurs filled the hall. The queen's guards were already shifting their positions. Sensing tension, the air felt heavy, like the whole palace was holding its breath. Finally, with trembling fingers, he reached out and took the ring from her hand. The soft warmth of it surprised him. It felt alive, as if it recognized him. A wave of whispers spread through the hall. The queen watched him closely. Not blinking, he slowly slid the ring onto his finger. It pulsed once, just once, like it accepted him. He lifted his head and looked. At the crowd, his voice felt weak, but he pushed the words out, because he knew he had no choice if he wanted to keep peace between the two worlds. "We are married." The hall erupted into shocked reactions. Gasps, murmurs, even a few shouts of disbelief. The alien nobles looked like someone had just broken centuries-old tradition. The queen, however, simply turned her head slightly and said, "It is done." She faced the council with calm confidence, as if nothing unusual had happened. She didn't even look back at him, which only confused him more. Why had she used him in this way? What made her choose a simple human researcher? For something so serious? When the ceremony ended, she signaled her guards to escort him privately. She didn't explain anything to the council, leaving them to argue and whisper behind her. He followed quietly, his heart still pounding, his mind spinning with questions. And as the heavy doors of the hall closed behind them, he realized he had just stepped into a situation far bigger than he could ever imagine. Everything changed the moment she said those words, and he had no idea what those words truly meant. The hallway outside the grand hall was quiet compared to the storm of whispers behind the closed doors. The alien queen walked ahead without saying a single word, her long silver cloak trailing over the smooth crystal floor. He followed at a careful distance, unsure if he should stay close or far. He didn't know the rules, and after what happened, he didn't want to break any more of their customs by accident. 2 guards walked behind him, their tall bodies moving with silent precision, almost like shadows. Their glowing eyes never looked away from him, and he couldn't tell whether they were protecting him or watching him to make sure he didn't run. His mind refused to settle. Everything that happened in the hall was replaying again and again. Her stare, the ring, the demand, the silence. his own voice shaking when he declared they were married. He still couldn't believe he said the words. He barely believed she asked him to. The moment felt unreal, as if it belonged to someone else's life, not his. The Queen led him through a series of corridors until they reached a large room. The doors opened silently, and she stepped inside. She didn't look back at him, but the guards gave him a small gesture to enter. He stepped in. The room was beautiful, but simple, nothing like the grand hall. Soft lights glowed from the walls. A set of couches made from smooth, stone-like material rested near a transparent window that looked out onto the alien city. The sky outside shifted between deep purple and pale blue, as if the planet couldn't decide what time of day it wanted to be. The Queen walked to the window and stood still, her hands resting behind her back. For a long moment, she didn't speak. She just stared at the horizon, as if she needed time to gather her thoughts. He didn't know if he should approach or stay where he was. So he waited. A few seconds passed, then a few minutes. The silence grew heavier with each breath. Finally, without turning around, she spoke. "You want answers." Her voice was quiet, not cold, not commanding, just tired. He cleared his throat. "Yes, I think I deserve to know why you did that." "Why me? Why? Something so serious?" The Queen slowly turned to face him. Her eyes looked calmer now, but there was a strange weight behind them. "Sit," she said. He sat on the nearest couch. She walked to the opposite side and sat across from him. For the first time since he met her, she looked less like a ruler and more like someone who carried too many burdens. "The ring you wear is not a simple object," she began. "It is a bond symbol, one that our oldest traditions recognize as a tie between two beings. When placed during a council gathering, it carries legal strength." He felt his stomach tighten. "So everyone thinks we're truly married?" "Yes," she said calmly. "They will believe it unless I announce otherwise." He tried to breathe, but his chest felt tight. He had imagined his life taking unexpected turns before, but nothing like this. Being married to an alien queen wasn't even something he could joke about. "But why me?" he asked softly. "You have thousands of your own people, leaders, warriors, advisors. Why choose a human you barely know?" She held his gaze for a long moment before answering. "Because I needed someone who has no role in our internal politics," she said. "Someone who cannot be used by the council. Someone who cannot be manipulated by my rivals." He blinked, trying to follow. "Your rivals?" The Queen leaned back slightly, though her posture remained elegant and firm. "There is a faction within the council," she explained. "A group that has been waiting for the right moment to challenge my authority. They believe I rule too peacefully, too gently. They want control, and they intend to take it soon." He listened carefully. Her voice had a quiet strength, as if she wasn't afraid, but she was clearly tired of carrying this alone. "To stop them," she continued, "I needed to perform an ancient ritual known as the Bond Declaration. If a queen chooses a partner one who has outside political influence, the council cannot question her leadership for a period of time." He frowned. "So this was a strategy?" "A necessary one," she replied. "If I chose one of my own people, they would assume I made a secret alliance. If I chose a political figure, they would think I was preparing for war. If I chose someone with a powerful family, they would assume I favored one group over another." Her eyes softened slightly. "You are neutral. You have no agenda here. That is why I chose you?" He stared at his hands, unsure what to say. Neutral, just a harmless human. That was what made him valuable to her. It felt strange, comforting, and overwhelming at the same time. "So this is temporary," he said quietly. "A fake marriage for political reasons." She nodded. "Yes, for now." Once the danger has passed, the bond can be dissolved. For now, the words echoed in his mind. He didn't know whether to feel relieved or worried. He leaned forward. You could have told me before asking me in front of everyone. The Queen's expression shifted, just slightly, almost like a flicker of guilt. If I had spoken to you privately first, she said, the council would have accused me of plotting. They already suspect me of hiding plans. I needed to act at a moment when they could not question me. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. Well, next time, at least warn me. A tiny smile appeared on her face, so small that he almost thought. He imagined it. You handled it better than some of my own council members would have, she said. He let out a weak laugh. I felt like fainting. Most would, she replied gently. For a moment, silence settled again. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt calmer, like they were finally beginning to understand each other. After a while, she spoke again. Her voice was softer now. You must know something else, she said. When I looked at you in the hall, I saw honesty. I saw no hunger for power. That is rare among leaders. Rare among my people, too. She took a slow breath. I needed someone I could trust for a short time. Someone who would not try to use the bond to gain influence. He stared at her, surprised. He hadn't expected a queen, an alien queen, to say something like that. But how do you know you can trust me? He asked. She looked at him with eyes that felt deeper than before. Because you were afraid, she said simply. And those who seek power do not fear it. He didn't know how to respond. He was afraid, terrified, even but hearing her say it, in such a calm, matter-of-fact way, made something inside him loosen. He wasn't chosen because he was special. He was chosen because he wasn't dangerous. Her gaze drifted to the window. The council will test us. They will question my choice. They will challenge this bond. But you must simply stand beside me during public gatherings. You do not need to speak unless asked. I will handle the politics, he nodded slowly. I can try. You will do more than try, she said softly. You already stood in front of them today with courage. That alone helped me more than you realize. He didn't feel courageous. He felt confused, overwhelmed, and lost. But hearing her say, that gave him a bit more strength. He looked at the glowing ring on his finger. Again, it pulsed gently, matching his heartbeat. What does this ring actually do? He asked. She hesitated before answering. It marks you as someone under royal protection. No one can harm you without facing severe consequences. It also means our bond is recognized by ancient law. Does it control me? He asked carefully. She looked almost offended. No, it does not bind your mind or body. It only connects our status. Nothing more. He sighed with relief. For a moment, her expression softened in a way he hadn't seen before, almost like she was relieved. He asked. Perhaps she expected him to be scared of her, or to see her as a threat. Instead, he was simply trying to understand. She stood up and walked toward the window again. You should rest. The next days will not be easy. There will be questions. There will be suspicion. And there will be those who try to test your sincerity. My sincerity? He repeated. Yes, she said. If they believe you do not take the bond seriously, they will use it against me. He swallowed hard. This was more pressure than he expected. I'll do my best. The Queen nodded. That is all I ask. As he stood to leave, she added one last thing, her voice quieter than before. And thank you for stepping into the unknown with me. He paused, surprised. The queen of an entire alien world thanking a simple human like him? It didn't feel real, but she meant it. He walked out of the room with 1,000 thoughts swirling in his head. He still didn't fully understand the danger she was facing. He didn't know how much responsibility this bond carried, and he had no idea what challenges awaited them. But one thing was clear. This was no longer just a political move. It was the beginning of something far bigger, something that could change both their lives in ways neither of them expected. The next morning felt different from anything he'd ever experienced. Even the air inside the alien palace seemed to hum with tension. He woke up early, long before the guards came to check on him, because his mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the Queen's face from the night before call, serious, hiding more emotions than she allowed anyone to see. He still couldn't believe everything that had happened. A single sentence had changed his entire life. One moment he had been just another human visitor. The next, he was standing beside the ruler of an alien world, wearing a glowing ring that marked him as her partner. Fake or not, it was a heavy role to carry. As he walked out of his room, 2 guards greeted him with a respectful bow. Their movements were sharp and precise, like they had practiced them thousands of times. He still wasn't used to the attention, so he simply nodded awkwardly. Her Highness requested your presence in the East Court, one of the guards said. Requested. The word made him nervous. He wasn't sure if the Queen actually wanted to see him, or if this was just another part of the political performance he had been dragged into. He followed the guards through long hallways, each lined with glowing patterns that shifted whenever someone walked past. The palace looked peaceful on the outside, but he could feel the tension hiding beneath the surface. Every servant moved quickly. Every guard looked alert. Even the air felt heavy. When they entered the East Court, he saw the Queen standing near a small garden. Strange plants with crystal-like leaves grew from the ground, glowing faintly. The Queen was looking at them, her expression unreadable. She turned when she heard him approach. You're up early, she said. He wasn't sure if it was an observation or a question, so he simply replied, I couldn't sleep much. That is expected, she said. Your world does not prepare you for situations like this. He gave a small smile. Not at all. There was a quiet moment. The Queen didn't look like the powerful ruler from the council hall. She looked calmer, almost peaceful. But her eyes still carried that same tiredness he noticed last night. I brought you here for a reason, she said. We must practice. Practice. What? He asked, confused. Appearing natural, she replied. He blinked. Natural? Yes. The council is watching for any sign that our bond is weak or staged. If they see hesitation or awkwardness or fear, they will question everything. He rubbed his neck nervously. I'm human. I always look awkward. The Queen looked at him with a long pause then. To his shock, she actually laughed. It was brief and soft, but it was real. He wasn't sure if she meant to show that side of herself, but seeing her smile made something inside him relax. You are more honest than most people around me, she said. That may be a good thing. He wasn't sure how to respond, but her voice made him feel less like an outsider. What do you want me to practice? He asked, standing near me, walking beside me, speaking when spoken to, looking comfortable. In my presence, he stared at her. I'm already nervous just hearing that. You will get used to it, she said. The garden was quiet, except for the faint sound of wind blowing through the glowing leaves. She stepped closer and gestured. Toward a pathway. Walk with me. He walked at her side, trying to match her pace. She moved with a slow, deliberate grace, while he moved with a slightly awkward rhythm, unsure if he was too fast or too slow. You are tense, she observed. I'm trying not to look suspicious, he said. You look like you are preparing. To run, she replied calmly. He groaned quietly. I can't help it. Everyone here looks like they expect something from me. Yes, she said. They expect you to prove you belong beside me. He swallowed hard. And do I? The Queen looked at him longer than usual. You do, she said softly. Far more than you realize. He didn't know how to respond. Her tone wasn't commanding or distant. It was almost gentle. It didn't feel fake, and he couldn't understand why someone like her would speak so softly to someone like him. They walked a little farther until she stopped near a crystal bench. The city outside glowed with soft purple light. The alien sky was beautiful, strange, and overwhelming. There is something you must understand, the Queen said. This bond we share, even though it is political, requires trust. My people will judge you harshly. They will question you. They will test you. He nodded slowly. I figured. But I will not let them harm you, she added. You are under my protection. He believed her, and that surprised him. She could be intimidating, powerful, and distant at times, but there was something genuine behind her eyes. So, what do we do now? He asked. We spend time together, she said. They must see that we are comfortable with each other, that we speak freely, that we understand one another. He raised an eyebrow. Understand each other? We barely know each other. You will learn, she said simply. And so will I. They spent the next hour talking about simple things at first. She asked about Earth, about his work, about human habits. He asked about the palace, her traditions, the plants that glowed in the garden. The more they talked, the less tense he felt. The Queen wasn't as cold as he thought. She listened carefully. She didn't interrupt. Sometimes she even looked, amused by his questions, especially when he asked about things she thought were obvious. You are curious, she said at one point. Is that bad? No, it is refreshing. Their conversation flowed easier than he expected. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like acting. In fact, it felt surprisingly natural. As they walked back inside the palace, one of the council members approached. The man's eyes flicked between them sharply. Your Highness, the counselor said with stiff politeness, I hope the morning finds you well. It does, the Queen replied. We were discussing our future plans. The counselor's eyes narrowed slightly at the word we. The Queen stepped closer to him, just a small step, but enough that it made the counselor raise an eyebrow. The Queen's voice remained calm. I assume you came to observe. It is my duty to ensure all alliances are appropriate, the counselor replied. The Queen's tone sharpened just a little. There is nothing inappropriate about our bond. The counselor bowed and walked away, but not before giving the human a long, evaluating look. A look that made it clear he didn't believe this bond was natural. As soon as he left, the Queen turned to him. This is why we must appear united, she said. They doubt us. He nodded, feeling the pressure grow heavier. I can try harder. The Queen shook her head slightly. Do not try harder. Just be present. That is enough. Hours passed with public appearances. They walked side by side. They spoke to nobles together. The Queen remained confident and strong, while he stayed close, following her lead. At times he stumbled or hesitated, but she never scolded him. Instead, she adjusted to his pace, guided him gently with subtle gestures, and spoke to him in a tone that made the crowd believe they were already familiar with each other. Slowly, the tension in the council's eyes softened, just a little dot by the time the sun began to set. Glowing orange and purple across the alien sky, he felt exhausted. His legs ached. His mind felt numb. He wasn't used to public attention or political games. When they finally reached a quiet balcony overlooking the city, he let out a long breath. I think I survived today. The Queen looked at him thoughtfully. You did more than survive. How? You adapted, she said. You learned. You walked beside me even when you were afraid. That is something many of my own people cannot do." He leaned his hands on the railing, staring at the glowing city lights. "This is harder than I thought." The Queen stepped beside him. "It will get harder." He laughed weakly. "That's not comforting." "I am not trying to comfort you," she said quietly. "I am being honest." He looked at her, and she looked back. For a moment, the world felt still. "Thank you for today," she said unexpectedly. "You made it easier." He blinked. "Me?" "Yes," she said softly. "You." Standing there, under the shifting colors of the alien sunset, he felt something change, something small, something quiet, but something real. The bond they shared might have started as a political strategy, but now something else was beginning to grow between them, something neither of them planned, something neither of them could stop. The next morning began with a strange calm, the kind that almost felt unreal after everything that had happened. He woke up slowly, still half lost in the haze of last night's events, the argument in the royal hall, the alien queen stepping between him and the council, her voice steady even while her hands trembled, and the way she had looked at him afterward with something unspoken resting behind her eyes. He sat up, rubbing his forehead. The guest chamber given to him was quiet, filled with the soft glow of floating lights. A part of him still struggled to believe that only days ago he had been just another human worker on an isolated research post. Now he was living inside palace built on a world that didn't even orbit their sun. For a moment he just breathed, letting the silence settle, until there was a soft knock at the door. Before he could answer, the door slid open, and the alien queen stepped inside. She wasn't wearing her crown or the ceremonial armor she used in front of her people. She wasn't carrying the authority she wore like a shield. Instead, she looked more like herself. Her hair was loose, her face unpainted, her expression almost unsure. He noticed the faint bruise on her shoulder, the one she had tried to hide the night before. The council's tension, as they called it, had not been harmless. Her eyes met his. "I hope I didn't wake you," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No, I was already up." She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure she was welcome. The queen someone feared across systems acting careful around him. It would have been unbelievable to anyone else. For a few seconds she didn't speak. She just stood there, fingers lightly touching the bracelet on her wrist, the same one that controlled palace security. It was the kind of nervous habit people had when they didn't want to admit they were nervous at all. Finally, she sat down on the chair across from him. "I wanted to talk," she said. He nodded, waiting. "I know yesterday was difficult," she continued. "For you, and for me." She looked down at her hands. "Never wanted you to be caught in the political struggle of my world. You came here by accident, and suddenly you were put in the middle of everything." He was quiet for a moment. "You protected me." "Yes," she said softly. "And I would again." Her voice was gentle, but firm, like she was stating a truth she had already accepted. He took a slow breath. "You scared them." Her lips curved slightly. "I scare many people." He leaned forward. "But you were trying to rule them through fear yesterday. You were angry because they questioned your choice. Because they questioned me." Her eyes lifted, and for the first time that morning, he saw the same fire she had shown in the council hall. "What they wanted," she said, "was to use you, to turn you into a symbol that belonged to them. I would not allow that." He studied her face. She still looked like a powerful leader, someone who commanded armies and negotiated with dangerous worlds. But under all that, she also looked tired-like. She carried a weight no one else had ever offered to share. He didn't know why, but something inside him softened. What happens now? He asked Dot. She took a slow breath. The council will calm down eventually. They fear what they cannot control, and they certainly cannot control you. She paused. Or me. He gave a small smile. So they're afraid of both of us. That made her laugh quietly, the sound warm enough to fill the room. But then her expression turned more serious. There is something else, she said. Something I did not tell you before. He straightened, sensing the change. About the ring. She continued out the same ring she had once demanded. He put on in front of everyone. The one that had started all of this. He looked at her carefully. What about it? She exhaled slowly. When a ruler of my people gives that ring to someone, it is not done casually. It is not a simple gesture. It is a declaration. He blinked. A declaration of what? Her eyes didn't leave his. Commitment, she said quietly. Protection. Partnership. A beat passed. Loyalty of the heart. He felt his chest tighten slightly. And when you asked me to wear it? She lowered her gaze. At first, it was to shield you. To keep you safe in front of the council. But later, she stopped, choosing her words with care. Later, it became something more. He didn't speak. He wanted her to finish. When you defended me in the council hall, she said, voice barely above a whisper, I realized that you are not just a human I had to protect. You are someone I trusted, someone whose presence gave me strength. He swallowed, taken off guard by her honesty. And I am not used to trusting anyone, she added with a small, bitter smile. Not after years of ruling alone. A long silence filled the space between them. He finally asked, Do you regret giving me the ring? Her head snapped up instantly. No, she said. Never. He felt something settle inside him, something steady, something warm. Dot. She stood up slowly, walking toward the balcony. He followed her. From there, the view stretched across the capital city towers of shining crystal, airships floating through pale clouds, light reflecting off sweeping sky bridges. It was beautiful and strange. Just like her world. Dot. For a moment, they both stood quietly, watching the sunrise turn the sky gold. Your world is changing, he said softly. So is yours, she replied. He turned to her. And us? She hesitated, then faced him fully. That depends on what you want, she said. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the fragile layer beneath it, the layer she hid from everyone else. If you no longer wish to be tied to this world, or to me, I will let you go. He stared at her, surprised by the pain hidden in that last part. She tried to look calm, but her hands had curled slightly at her sides, as if holding on to something invisible. You would let me leave? He asked gently. I would never trap you, she said. I may be a queen, but I do not want a prisoner beside me. He stepped closer. You think I feel trapped? She blinked, almost confused. Don't you? No, he said quietly. Not with you. Her breath caught. Just slightly, he continued. You pulled me into a world I never imagined. And yes, it's overwhelming sometimes. But I'm still here. I stayed. Not because I'm forced to, but because. He paused, letting the words settle. Because being by your side feels right. Her eyes softened so noticeably that even the light around them seemed gentler. He took another breath. And that ring? You gave it to me to protect me. But now, I want to wear it because it means something to you. A small, almost disbelieving smile touched her lips. He reached for her hand, not boldly, but carefully, giving her space to pull away if she wanted to. She didn't. Their fingers intertwined slowly, naturally, like their hands had been waiting. For the moment, if I stay, he said, it won't be because of the council or politics. It'll be because of you. She didn't speak for a moment. Her throat moved as if she was swallowing emotion she didn't want to show. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Then stay," she whispered. He stepped closer, and she didn't move away. She stood there, strong and steady as a queen, but vulnerable as someone who had lived too long without someone at her side. "I will," he said. She released a slow breath, one that carried relief, hope, and something deeper. Then she gently touched the ring on his hand, her fingers tracing its patterns. "If you wear this by choice," she said, "then it is no longer just protection. It becomes a bond between us." "A bond I accept," he answered. Behind them, the city continued waking up, unaware of the quiet promise being formed on the palace balcony. She looked at him. No crown, no armor, no layers of royal command, just a woman who had finally let someone into her world. "And from this day forward," she said softly, "we walk together." He nodded, feeling the truth of her words settle deep inside him. And for the first time since arriving in her world, he felt not like a visitor or a stranger, but like he belonged.